Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
We look at the divination, the way we did to what? To mountains. Then we look at the types. Then we look at their mode of formation. Mode of formation. Then maybe we look at their uses or importance. Either uses or importance. Either uses or what? Importance. Now, let's look at plateau as a topic. We say that plateau is also an elevated upland. In the case of a mountain, it has a height of what? 600 meters above the sea level. But in the case of plateau, the difference between plateau and mountain is that in the case of plateau, it's an elevated with a flat surface. An elevated land with what? A flat or a table. We call it tableland. With a tableland, a table surface. That is why people can settle on top. In fact, we have Jos Plateau. Jos Plateau is what is part of what we are discussing. People settle on top of the plateau because of the flat nature of this plateau we are discussing. If you go to Mambila Plateau in Taraba State, people live there because of what? The flat nature and other tableland. So another name for plateau is a tableland, an elevated tableland. So that is the divination. Now let's look at what are the types of plateau. Types of plateau. Number one, we have tectonic plateau. Number two, we have volcanic plateau. Can you see? Then number three, we have dissected plateau. The type of mountain is the same thing. Is the same thing. Now let's look at tectonic plateau. Tectonic plateau is formed as a result of what? Is formed as a result of earth movement. We are looking at this. Tectonic plateau is formed. We are talking about a tableland. When we have the earth movement, this type of earth movement, we are not talking about rotation and revolution now. We are talking about the crustal movement. By the time you get to the work of SS2, we'll discuss about this one. So when we are talking about earth movement that leads to tectonic plateau, we are not talking about the one we discussed some time ago. That is the rotation and the revolution. No. This one we are talking about the crustal movement of the earth. When there is a change within the crust, you know, the crusts are formed. The crusts are formed in layers. And that is what I forgot to let us know. One of the characteristics of sedimentary rocks, they are formed in strata. That is, they are formed in layers. So these layers, most at times, they drift as a result of either earthquake, is one of our topics we are going to discuss in SS2 and SS3. Either earthquake or the crustal movement of the earth. Once it happens like that, it can push some part of the earth to go up to form what we call tectonic plateau. We are discussing the mode of formation now. Then this is what we have a volcanic. Volcanic is the same volcanic mountain, is the same volcanic rock, is the same thing. But in this case, when a volcanic goes erupt and comes up, it solidifies to form a flat surface. Instead of forming a mountain shape like, what it does is that it will form a flat table-like surface. And the example of volcanic mountain is the one we have in Jos. Jos Plateau is example of what? Volcanic mountain. Then volcanic plateau, sorry. Then number 3, we have dissected. A dissected plateau is like the formation of residual mountain. What happened here is that the original, either mountain, this wearing and tearing away can level the surface of a mountain to become a tableland, to form what we call dissected plateau. Remember, we are talking about plateau. Plateau is a tableland, an elevated tableland with flat surface, and that is why people can settle on top of plateau, unlike mountains and the other features. In plateau, they are good, place for settlement, and it's one of the importance of a plateau because they are good place for settlement. Here we have in Nigeria we have Jos Plateau, we have Mambila Plateau. All these plateaux, they are good for settlement. Where we are now discussing the importance. Number 1, they are good for settlement, as we said. Number 2, some of these plateaux, they contain rich mineral resources. Like in Jos, we have tin and columbite. In Jos is an elevated upland plateau. It contains what? Then some of them, they have good and favorable what? Weather. Good and favorable weather. Some plateau serve as tourist what? Tourist attraction. We have some plateau also can be used. Some of the plateau, they contain water and they can be used for the generation of what? Electricity. That is hydroelectric power. We are having another hydroelectric power on Mambila Plateau now, embarked by the federal government of Nigeria. The reason is because there is a waterfall from the top of the Mambila Plateau down that the government consider it as a potential for the generation of hydroelectric power. So these are the importance of plateau. Number 1, they are good, area for settlement. That is why we have Jos Plateau, we have Mambila Plateau. Some plateau contain, they are rich in minerals. Like in Jos, we have tin and columbite. Then even on top of Mambila Plateau, because of the fair weather, have you ever heard of Highland tea? Just like Lipton, Highland tea is produced on top of Mambila Plateau. And some of the plateau, they have good and favorable weather. Do you remember Atlanta 1996, where Nigeria won Olympics, I think, under the captainship of Kanu Nwankwo? Before they left for Atlanta, because the climate of Atlanta is very, very cold, these boys were camped in Mambila Plateau, on top of Mambila Plateau, so that they can acclimatize with the climate there before they get to Atlanta. And when they went there, they performed wonderfully well. So because of the good and favorable weather, it attracts people, tourists, to go there and spend their holiday. So tourist attraction. And some, plateau, because of the presence of waterfall, they can generate hydroelectric power there. And the example is what we are having now on Mambila Plateau. So these are the importance of plateau. We have discussed what plateau is. I've told us it's an elevated upland with a flat surface, a tableland. We call it a tableland. Another name for plateau is an elevated tableland it's a flat surface. Then we have types. We have tectonic. This one is as a result of the crustal movement of the earth. We are going to discuss that whenever we are talking about the earthquake. Then that is, we talk about the crustal movement. That one is different from the type of movement the earth exhibited when we talk about the rotation and revolution. Now we look at volcanic. This one is as a result of the eruption of volcanic what? Volcanic magma from the bathysphere or from the core, and once it comes up, it solidifies and form a flat surface. An example of that is the Jos Plateau. Then we have dissected. Maybe a standing mountain can be subjected to agent of erosion, denudation. Then it will not, that force will level the surface and become a flat surface. So that type of plateau is what we call dissected plateau, and these are the importance. So far so good. We have discussed mountains and we have discussed what? Plateau. Then after this, you should know, number one, what mountain is, their mode of formation, their importance. The same thing, plateau. We know their types, we know their formation, the mode of formation, and you know their importance. By the time you know all this, I think you can face any exam, even if it is WAEC, confidently that any question that comes out of this will be able to answer. That is the summary of it. And as we said, that any topic that we treated, there is a self-assessment. So after this, you are going to see some questions. Use it to test yourself whether you actually understand what we have said or not.